Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and hope everyone had a great weekend. Here to bring you the latest information that we have on what is now PTC 5, which is short for Potential Tropical Cyclone 5, which is fancy terminology that we're about to have a tropical storm, which will be Ernesto. Now, there's already a cone out from the National Hurricane Center, the path of uncertainty. And the peak intensity of this thing is a 110 mile per hour high-end Category 2 hurricane. So we've been talking over the last few days that we thought this was going to become the next hurricane of the hurricane season, and is now technically forecast to be so by the experts at the National Hurricane Center. If they bump up that peak intensity another 5 miles per hour, then that would make it where it would be forecast to become a major Category 3 hurricane, which a major hurricane is considered a Category 3 or higher. So this thing has the potential to be a very strong hurricane. It's just, is it going to hit anybody at that more high-end peak intensity? We got to figure that out, but I can tell you, model guidance continues to pour in and point to the fact that this is going to turn north and potentially head on out to sea. But this is going to bring impacts to people, so that's why we're going to continue to talk about. Sometimes I read in the comments, it's like, this is a fish storm, Mitch, no need to talk about it. What's going out to sea. Sometimes I see comments like that, even on my other social media platforms. It's not a fish storm for everybody. This is heading towards the Leeward Islands. It's going to bring impacts to you guys. There's a chance this could intensify a little bit more than what's forecast to do so. If it does, of course, the impacts go up. So we definitely need to pay attention to our friends here in Bermuda and even Atlantic Canada. But I would say the eastern U.S., chances continue to go down that this is going to impact anybody along the East Coast, but cannot be ruled out, especially the further north you go. So we're going to go over all the latest information that we have from the National Hurricane Center, all the model guidance. We'll talk about the environment out ahead of the system that is going to promote this storm system, future Ernesto, to intensify into one of those higher end hurricanes, and then we'll talk about steering current. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I feel much better this evening. That's why I am getting you guys an evening update out here tonight. So appreciate anybody that did pray over my throat being sore and just not feeling the best. I do feel much better tonight. Thank the good Lord for that. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling tonight. I'm not going to make this video drag on, guys. We should be able to knock this out in about 20 to 25 minutes. But here's your tropical wave right here. I say that and watch it be 35 to 40 minutes. But here's our tropical wave right here. It doesn't look much different. I would say it doesn't look as good as it did about a day ago if we're basing this purely off convection, which is shower and storm activity. You're not seeing really deep convection as widespread in the system as you were, say, this morning or even last night. But that doesn't change what we know about this system and what's to come with this system, and that's the fact that it is going to intensify. It's just not working with a really good upper wind pattern right now. That is going to dramatically change over the next 48 hours, especially as it nears the Leeward Islands. So this is our tropical wave right here in the central Atlantic, getting a little bit closer now to the Lesser Antilles and the Greater Antilles. And then we got to watch as this thing does eventually turn north and then, potentially brings impacts to Bermuda, which is right into here. Does this get out a little bit further west? Does it turn a little bit more dramatically like this? Those are all the questions we need answers to, and we're going to eventually figure out for you folks. So we get this all back off your screen. We continue to move forward here, and we look at the latest from the National Hurricane Center, literally the latest 5 p.m. update. Upgraded this from an invest to a potential tropical cyclone, PTC 5 for short. So the actual center of this system is right here, 30 mile per hour PTC 5. Forecast to still be pretty much the same, goes up another 5 miles per hour. Doesn't change much in the grand scheme of things. And then it's a 40 mile per hour. That's kind of weird. It still says potential tropical cyclone. 35 to 40 typically is a bump up from a depression or a PTC, potential tropical cyclone, to a tropical storm. So it's kind of weird. It doesn't say tropical storm here, but it doesn't really matter too much. But this is forecast to become our next named storm, the E-name Ernesto, by late tomorrow night. So maybe just after midnight tomorrow night. Could be a little earlier, could take a little bit longer. But as of 2 a.m. Tuesday, forecast to become a 45 mile per hour tropical storm, Ernesto. Now, we zoom in. By the time this gets into the Leeward Islands, it goes up a little bit more. It's a 50 mile per hour tropical storm. So while this is cruising sometime Tuesday through the Leeward Islands, peak intensity should be at, I would say a low to mid-grade tropical storm. Now, continue to tune in for updates every single day for sure between now and then, which is only, a day and a half, 2 days. But you get what I'm saying. I pump out the videos twice a day, so you want to get updates from people frequently, whether it's from me, somebody else on YouTube, your local people, but this could change. But as of now, forecast to be a tropical storm Tuesday as it's cruising through the Leeward Islands. Now, we zoom in a little bit closer. As of right now, we have tropical storm watches up for Guadeloupe, Antigua, and Barbuda. If I mess up any of these names, I do apologize. It's definitely not intentional, as you guys know. Anguilla, I believe is how you pronounce it. If I messed that up, sorry. But St. Kitts and Nevis, you guys have tropical storm watches in all these other areas too. But you get down, I've had a lot of people ask from Barbados. It looks like this is going to go north of Barbados, and they don't have Dominica in a tropical storm watch. Martinique, the further south you go, I would say the better off you are. But right here in basically the entire Leeward Islands area, you're definitely going to get tropical storm force conditions in this area. And as this continues to move and picks up a little bit of speed, so it goes from here 2 p.m. Tuesday to here 2 a.m. Wednesday, so it covers a lot of area in 12 hours, relatively speaking here. But the British Virgin Islands, I would say right now the British Virgin Islands could potentially see heavier impacts than maybe the Virgin Islands. And then we still got to watch out for Puerto Rico, guys. Some of those GFS runs was wanting this to sneak fully into the Caribbean. And remember, a couple of GFS runs back, had this rapidly intensifying in this area of the Caribbean right here. Most of these model runs are not showing that scenario anymore. But as it goes from here 2 a.m. Wednesday to here 2 p.m. Wednesday, it goes from a tropical storm, and that is when it becomes a hurricane. So we should have Hurricane Ernesto by midweek this week. But thankfully, as of now, and this could tick a little bit further west, but I would say the trend right now is actually a little bit further east. But as of now, there's a wide open weakness in the upper steering pattern for this to turn north pretty dramatically. And that's exactly what it does. Hurricane by Wednesday sometime, can't talk. And then, from 2 p.m. Wednesday to 2 p.m. Thursday, 24 hours, goes from a Category 1, 75-mile-per-hour hurricane to a Category 2, 100-mile-per-hour hurricane. And then this goes all the way out to Friday at 2 p.m., and we got a 110-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane. If it goes up another 5 miles per hour to 115, that would make it a major Category 3 hurricane. If you're wondering where Bermuda is, you are technically not in the cone right at this second, but that is because this only goes, 5 days out. So you are not in that 5-day cone yet. By the time we get into this time tomorrow, you will most likely, at minimum, be in the cone somewhere. Just, are you in the center of the cone? If you obviously were to keep playing this out, it would look obvious that Bermuda is going to be included in the path. It's just, you guys are going to get a direct impact. I think, I don't know how many viewers I got from Bermuda. If you're viewing from Bermuda, please say hey. That would be awesome. I love to have people outside the U.S. tuning in. It means the world. But this is certainly one of those storms that you guys got to watch. Of course, when we're looking from the U.S., right, here I am here in South Carolina, people in the southeast, eastern U.S., you're thinking fish storm. But it ain't a fish storm for everybody. Thankfully, Bermuda's pretty small, so it's going to take pretty much a direct impact to bring huge impacts to Bermuda. Bermuda's very tough. They are, from what I hear from people, the community is built well to withstand strong storm systems. So let's hope that this doesn't obviously make a direct impact sometime later this week into the weekend. But this is as far out as the cone goes, so we got a nice cone to really break down now for all our videos. And just the classic looking cone that you guys are probably used to looking at here. And there's the timeline of it there. Now, I do not have the evening GFS. I wanted to get this video out a little bit earlier. The next GFS run starts initializing in about 15 to 20 minutes, actually. So we're actually just going to look at the lunchtime model run. It's hard to call any kind of significant shift from one model run to the next a trend. You need a series of runs to really call it a trend. So right now the trend is turning north quicker and going out to sea. It's just, who all does it affect out to sea? Bermuda, Atlantic Canada, etc. We got to figure that one out. But In the shorter term, guys, the GFS has this developing into a tropical storm. Same thing as what the National Hurricane Center is saying. Sometime midday Tuesday, there it is, rumbling through the Leeward Islands. Who is it going to impact the most? Well, I think it'll just be an organizing tropical storm, but still an unorganized tropical system, if that makes sense. It'll be getting its act together, but it won't be a full-fledged like Hurricane Beryl or anything, which obviously moved a little bit further south in the Lesser Antilles. But as you can tell, from here, 1,003 millibar low Tuesday evening to Tuesday late night, it drops, 7 millibars to a 996 millibar low. So this is in the process of strengthening right into here, especially on the GFS. And, it actually goes up a millibar here, but, plows this right into the Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands. And then once it gets north of the British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, this is when you'll see this number begin to deepen, to drop, which means we have a strengthening low pressure. And look at that. It goes from a 993 millibar low to a 983 millibar low. Drops 10 millibars in about 6 hours north of Puerto Rico. So my only concern in the shorter term, I would say, is that this starts to intensify much quicker, like right on top of the Leeward Islands, and quickly develops into a hurricane, brings much more substantial impacts. That's because out of anybody that's going to impact, of course, we worry about the Lesser Antilles first, Puerto Rico, etc. And of course, we do need to continue to watch the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then the Turks and Caicos Islands, if this makes any significant shift west in the shorter term. But these are the people to watch out for first. And then in the medium term, it's Bermuda. In the longer term, we still need to watch out for New England and Atlantic Canada. But if we keep this going, this continues to strengthen. I mean, we go to Thursday morning. It's already saying this is a Category 2 hurricane. And then we take this to Friday morning, 963 millibar Category 3, maybe Category 2 or 3 hurricane. And then we get into Saturday morning. And if you got to look really closely here, and I'm going to try to draw on here. Bermuda is right into here. Probably not the best color to use. So Bermuda is right into here. So this system looks like it's going to make a very close pass, if not a direct impact. And that would be very unfortunate with, at this point, Ernesto being the strongest it's been to this point. So you keep this going here, and this, it almost looks like it makes a direct impact into Bermuda sometime Saturday. We don't want that. That would be devastating. I can tell you one thing. As we get to the tail end of this week, a lot of people, there's probably going to be a lot of people chattering like, man, this thing still might can head into the East Coast. I remember Hurricane Lee when I was breaking down that hurricane. What's wild is breaking down Hurricane Lee was some of my highest viewed videos ever. Still my highest viewed video ever was breaking down Hurricane Lee. And Hurricane Lee never made landfall for basically the eastern U.S. Yes, it did move into like Maine and Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. But ultimately, it ended up turning out to sea, which is what most model guides hit it at. But I think everybody just wanted to tune in and really noticed that this was a Category 5 hurricane, several hundred miles off the coast, but it was still wild to watch unfold. And I think that future Ernesto is going to be the same. I think this is going to be a huge hurricane out in the Southwest Atlantic. And I think that there is a potential this could reach Category 4 or 5 status. I think the upper wind pattern supports this. So we just got to watch. This goes right into Bermuda. If this is something that happens, then of course we go a little bit on up the road. And there it is coming up on your screen. This is obviously Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Mass, New Brunswick right here, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland. Now a lot of these systems that like to turn out to sea sometimes don't make the turn abrupt enough and can sometimes still come up here and get tugged into Atlantic Canada, but it looks like it misses you guys. So we go all the way out to like next Monday or Tuesday. It makes a close pass, but it does bring a little bit of impacts to southeast Newfoundland if the GFS is correct, but altogether it pretty much misses. Now what about the European model? It really does not want to strengthen this system in the near term. Like I would say the National Hurricane Center is more so following the GFS as far as short-term intensity. But the European, wants to really struggle with this thing. But between now and about midweek, we get into about Wednesday morning. It goes further north and just brings some gusty showers and storms across the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and that's about it. But it does begin to deepen north of these areas. And then by the time we are in a Thursday morning, August the 15th, here in the next few days, this is strengthening into a hurricane. And then by the time we are into Friday morning, this is a hurricane. And it's making that turn northeast at this point. And it actually misses Bermuda to the east, not to the west, to the east. So has about a Category 2 hurricane east of Bermuda around Saturday. And at this point, is it going to get tugged back north or northeast? Or northwest? Well, if we're looking at this run, we're going to have to jump this back to the Euro. Here it comes. You're going to see it at the bottom of your screen. And it doesn't even come close to our friends here in Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, etc. Doesn't even come close. So some good trends today. But of course, not everybody is going to, get away from some sort of impacts. And you look in the shorter term, of course, interests are here in the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, and it really likes pretty much, I would say the members are really zoned into this area. I mean, it definitely looks like it's going to impact the Leeward Islands into Puerto Rico. I say Puerto Rico, maybe the extreme east coast of the Dominican Republic, maybe is the furthest west this gets in the shorter to medium term. But we still got to watch for any ticks west into this area, like the Turks and Caicos Islands and the Southeast Bahamas. You can't ignore that, but I can tell you, every single one of these members off the European ensemble here really turned this abruptly north. And there's Bermuda right there, which is, you might as well call this right in the middle of these members. So you guys are right in the path of this system. It's just, is it going to make a direct impact, or is it just going to scrape you guys? That's a big one we got to figure out. But if I am in Bermuda, I am watching this like crazy. I really am. And even on the East Coast, I'm just watching it just to watch it, because I really think, let's hope that this, the best case scenario is this just stays a weak tropical storm in the Leeward Islands, and really just, I think it's going to come close to Bermuda regardless, but let's just hope and pray that it just stays far enough away. And let's, at the end of the day, just hope that we can just look at this hurricane and say, wow, this thing is fascinating. It's not impacting anybody. It's not going to impact anybody. And we can just kind of look at this. The only things that it's bothering out there is the fish out in the ocean. The fish are like, dude, come on, man. You got to relax with this, these out-to-sea hurricanes. But, of course, I think the fish can handle it out there. That's why we call them fish storms. But I'll be honest with you guys. This does look like an out-to-sea storm. It looks like... for the most part, and I know I need to use this saying, carefully, it looks like we might be looking out with this, but not everybody potentially has the opportunity to look out. Now, that's not Mitch saying, this is absolutely not going to hit New England or something like that. I'm not saying that, guys. I'm just saying it's a pretty clear model signal that this looks like it's going north at least. It's going to make a turn north. Let's leave it at that, right? So we get this back off, and I do want to talk about short-term impacts. We just mentioned a lot of these islands. It is going to bring some rain, to even down to Barbados. 1 to 2 inches of rain, 25 to 50 millimeters of rain. St. Lucia, Martinique, a good 50 to 100 millimeters of rain, 2 to 4 inches. Once you get up to the Dominica area, the island of Dominica, 4 to 6 inches, 100 to 150 millimeters of rain. And that'll be the case pretty much across the Leeward Islands, Barbuda, and like the St. Martin area, Puerto Rico. Once you get into Puerto Rico and things like that, in the British Virgin Islands, this is when you can definitely get that 100 to 150 millimeters of rain, that 4 to 6 inches of rain. And then you do want to watch out for flash flooding in like Puerto Rico, especially some of the higher terrain of Puerto Rico. As water does push up against those higher elevations, you can get higher than that, like maybe 8 inches of rain, 150 to 200 to maybe as much as 250 or so millimeters of rain. I'm not used to speaking in millimeters because I'm in the U.S. I'm used to speaking in inches and feet and stuff like that. But definitely a lot of tropical rains across this area. But, unless you live in some of these higher mountaintops and some of these islands and higher hills, I don't think the flooding is going to be devastating or anything like that. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope they're going to just sweep through really quick. I also think this system will be moving pretty quickly as this is making its turn north into this area. So I obviously don't think that this is going to stall out or anything in this area, so that's good. But we'll certainly watch. Now, the chances to see tropical storm force winds, which is, let's just might as well say 40 mile per hour winds or higher. Of course, in the Leeward Islands, you got a good 30 to 40% chance to see that. We definitely are in some of these gusty showers and storms. Probably going to see more than that, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. You start to get to the British Virgin Islands as this is going to be strengthening. You're up to a 40 to 50% chance to see those tropical storm force conditions, 40, 50 mile per hour winds. And then obviously these colors begin to get darker and the percentage begins to go up once you get north of Puerto Rico, because it is forecast to become a hurricane north of the Greater Antilles. So that's that. Now, the next thing we will talk about, why does this strengthen so quickly? Once it gets kind of, I would say, it begins to strengthen on top of the Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, near Puerto Rico, but it really rapidly strengthens north of these areas. Well, once it gets right here, I would say, this is around here in the next few days. So, like Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. One thing you'll notice is the upper wind pattern, which is what we're looking at here. These are winds at about 200 millibars in the atmosphere, which is 40,000 feet up. So well above the actual the low-level circulation of what will be Ernesto here in a couple of days. GFS already has this deepening into a 996 millibar tropical storm, Ernesto. And if you notice, air is being dispersed out away from the storm. In the northern hemisphere, of course, these tropical systems rotate cyclonically just like that. But if you notice these lines right here with the arrows, kind of the arrowheads embedded into them, air is actually getting pushed out away from the storm in the upper levels of the atmosphere, basically above this storm. Air is being pushed out over here, and I know for the people who's been tuning in every single video, you're like, man, this guy literally is on repeat with this. Well, I explain it because you never know with, one, the people who tune in, don't understand at one time, and then all of a sudden it clicks. And then two, we got some new viewers that are probably tuning in, and of course that's why I re-go over all the information. And honestly, three, each time I go over it, it helps me understand it a lot more, and it helps me be able to explain a lot more. So that's why we just kind of go over the same information over and over again. If you're wondering, which I've actually have never heard anybody ever complain about that, so I don't even know why I'm really bringing it up. But anyways, this has what we call a nice anticyclonic flow. So basically, on top of this storm, the winds are actually getting dispersed in the opposite direction as the actual mid to low level circulation. So air is rising up through these storms, right? And then it gets dispersed outward. And then more air rise, that gets pushed outward. So each time the air gets pushed outward, it allows for more air to rise. And we know that rising air, right? If you don't, about to tell you, rising air means that you have shower and storms are able to develop. Sinking air does the exact opposite. It pretty much limits shower and storm activity. So basically this has an environment that supports the continuation of showers and storms. And, if they can continue to fire off those showers and storms, then this develops a very moist environment. And, of course, tropical systems love a moist environment. That mixed with the fact, and I don't have it pulled up in this video, that this system is going to be riding over sea surface temperatures in Fahrenheit in like the mid to upper 80s. So the waters out here are plenty warm to sustain tropical development and to intensify tropical cyclones. So we get this back off, and, this environment that is basically divergence aloft and nice outflow continues. I mean, you even get right here, air is being fanned out from the storm. I mean, like this. And kind of a nerdy term that we use is a ULAC, upper level anticyclone, basically positioned right over the system. So, I mean, this thing has a wonderful environment to work with. And thankfully, at this point, when it's rapidly intensifying, I think that, which it does have the opportunity to do here in the Southwest Atlantic, it's not bothering a soul right now. Unless you just happen to be a ship out here and you get caught up in the storm, which I hope no cruise liners or ships or anything are going into a rapidly intensifying hurricane in the Southwest Atlantic. That would not be a good idea. So that is what promotes this strength into a powerful hurricane. That's why on the thumbnails, guys, I've been putting stuff like that. Powerful hurricane could form. A hurricane is most likely to form. Well, Now the National Hurricane Center cone has dropped. Sure enough, it's forecast to become a hurricane, and not just a hurricane, but a higher in Category 2 hurricane. And I'm almost willing to bet by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, the peak intensity is over 115 miles per hour. You know, that's not me just trying to hype things up and just make you scared, you know, create fear or anything like that. I mean, that's just what I think is going to happen. I mean, now if I sat there and on the thumbnail and I put major hurricane expected to make landfall in the southeast coastline, and I put a gigantic hurricane icon right on top of the eastern U.S. or something like that, then I'll be trying to deliberately create fear and trying to get hundreds of thousands of views on my video. But I hope you guys, you know, get that. You know, you occasionally get some comments. I know a lot of people are like, Mitch, stop worrying about the comments. I'm not really worried about them, but I just like to explain that type of stuff to you. You know, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with my channel, it's a personal type channel. It's a very personal feel. It's a lot different than other channels. We kind of get off topic a little bit like I'm doing right now, and you know, that's just how we do on this channel. So I like to always talk to you guys like you're literally right in front of me. That's always a huge goal with this channel. But anyways, enough of all that. Because it has such an excellent upper wind pattern, you see this blob of green right here with the L in between? It's able to create an extremely tight, moist environment. And this moist environment is basically shrouding this low pressure, this low-level circulation, which is the heart and soul of these tropical systems. It's completely protected by a very moist environment. So even though you got these areas of like brown around this, which is this moisture in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, that moisture is not going to get wrapped up in this circulation. Now, there is the potential once it gets a little bit further north, you know, then it's probably not going to be able to stay this strong. But I really think somewhere in this area right here, this system of Bermuda up here, this system right into here, into this area, which I don't think it's going to get this far west, but I think in the southwest Atlantic, this is where this system can get its strongest. So I think by the time we get into this Friday or Saturday, we really could be talking about a higher end hurricane right in this area. I mean, the environment supports it, so I don't see why we couldn't get it, to be honest with you. Now, if we're talking about steering currents, this is pretty much cut and dry. There's nothing really difficult to explain about this, complicated about the pattern at all. This has pretty much an easy route to get pulled north and then get kicked back out to sea, to be quite honest with you. So I'm going to actually put this all in motion once with you and then back it all up and explain it. So here comes our blue area right here. This is future Ernesto. This is getting into midweek. You know, this is getting north of Puerto Rico. Watch as it moves north, and then it gets captured by this upper low, if you will. It pulls on it, and then that upper low sort of weakens. At this point, this system has so much forward momentum that it's just heading north. It doesn't matter what's in front of it or anything like that. It has so much positive momentum that even though there's a ridge on top of it, it's going to continue to move north. And in fact, it gets pretty much absorbed in the ridge and then gets latched on to this trough way up here in the North Atlantic. And you certainly want to watch this storm. You know, once you get into like what the United Kingdom over there in Europe, this system eventually on down the road could impact you guys later in August. It could literally do one huge loop. Now let's back it up and explain this a little bit more. So blue is low pressure on your screen. The orange reddish color, that is high pressure. Another term that you can call this area in blue is a trough of low pressure. Another term for the area in orange is a ridge of high pressure. Low pressure, high pressure. Flow around low pressure is going to go like this. So cyclonically, flow around this, the bottom base of this trough of low pressure is going just like this. So regardless, this system, even right now, okay, this is being steered by some very weak ridging down here. Way down here in like areas of the Caribbean and just the tropical Atlantic. But there's a huge weakness already right here, especially as we're getting to midweek. So this is why this ultimately, this area in white, why this pretty much begins to turn north. And really one of the biggest reasons this begins to turn dramatically north is pretty much because this strengthens, and a stronger tropical system, a stronger low pressure is always wants to get poleward. It wants to gain latitude. It wants to go further north. So as soon as this thing begins to deepen and strengthen around Puerto Rico and points north, it immediately starts to head north. And once it heads north, it has a wide open weakness to go north. With this trough, we're sitting right here. I mean, the ridging is way over here. Ridging is way over here. Really, the only way this could slip and kind of go like this is if this area in orange right here, this ridging, was maybe built a little bit further out like this. Then this could, maybe be captured by the flow around this ridge and kind of go this way and then maybe trail off into the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. But this ridging, guys, is way over here. Okay, and it's not going to feel that. This thing is strengthening and it's immediately starting to turn north, and this trough is going to help kick it back out. Now, it ain't going to dramatically go out like that, but it's going to capture it pretty much and then help to aid it north. And then once it strengthens, it doesn't need any help at this point. But here it goes. It finds that weakness. It's turning north. It gets captured by that upper low. It could yank on this. Like, for example, it could make it go from like north-northeast to maybe north. So it might, for example, start off by kind of going like this, and it actually might get yanked a little bit to the north. And that's why you need to watch in Atlantic Canada and in the Northeast still. And I still want to watch this feature right here, because they're just looking at this as it is, what if this trough is bigger than what it's modeled, and maybe it's like way up over here. Then if our tropical system's right here, then it might feel the flow around this trough, and it might get yanked and pulled a little bit further north. But how strong is this hurricane right here? If it's too strong, then it's just going to head north regardless and maybe go out to sea. So my take on this is, obviously you need to watch Bermuda. But if you live in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Atlantic Canada, Southeast Canada, all the way down to Maine and New England, I still want to watch this area. I really do. Because this could do something funky right here. But this thing has so much positive momentum. It is heading north. You're going to need one heck of a ridge right here to really force this further west, or another trough digging down the northeast or the northwest side of it. But I just do not see this slipping into the Caribbean, guys. I mean, there's a wide open weakness right here. Here it is, tomorrow night. You're going to need some sort of ridge, like I said, built into this area to push this that way. And you don't have that. Very weak. So, to me, this is an easy path to turn north. We just got to figure out what happens after that. Things could change. We all know that. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but this is based off what we know. So, God bless all y'all. You guys have a wonderful night, and I'll talk to you again in the morning.